Welcome to the All Things Rugby Show. My name is, of course, Shanair, and once again, I'm joined back in the studio with Mr. David Ford. Fordy, how are we, sir? What a shirt, by the way.
Thank you very much. For the audio listeners, I am wearing a luxurious Dragons RFC throwback jersey. It's actually, it's quite fashionable, I think. I'm quite surprised by the Dragons.
Well, you got a nice result on the weekend as well, which we'll get to.
Yeah, well, let's get to that one step at a time. But glad to be back. Last week was a bit of a whirlwind tour of the UK, Wales, Scotland, a tour of Cardiff for you, which I'm sure we'll get onto as well. And but glad to be back in familiar territory.
Yeah, so obviously for those watching and listening, we didn't manage to put out the full episode last week. We were on tour in Cardiff, but you'll see lots of shorts. Shout out to Andrew Ford, who joined us in the studio as well. So make sure you jump across to his YouTube and check. But yeah, look, we obviously had a good time in Cardiff. We'll obviously get to that in home and away. But how's your week been since you've been back?
It's been turbulent, I would say, to say the least.
That's a good word for it.
Yeah, nothing more to say there. But it's been, I think Cardiff was a bit of a whirlwind as well. And this fallow week now with the Six Nations is, again, I always say that the week between Christmas and New Year, nobody really knows what to talk about rugby-wise. There's sort of a kind of a half-assed effort at the club level domestically. But I'm looking forward to this weekend and, finally getting some Six Nations back on. It's something to look forward to in amongst fairly troubling times.
How do you feel about fallow week? Because obviously, look, I understand at that level, going 5 weeks back to back is hard. But the reality is that's what you're doing a World Cup, right? And then in the autumn, you also do 4. The Nations Championships, which we'll talk about, will be 4. Is 5 that much different?
I think the World Cup's not a very fair comparison. I think even Rassie says it. You've only got to win 3 games, or however he puts it in the documentary. You've got a couple of down weeks for the Tier 1 nations emotionally during the World Cup. You play the Shags at least once at the group level. I mean, the emotional side of elite sport at Tier 1 level, to get up 5 weeks in a row, regardless of the sort of turmoil you put your body through, I think it's necessary. It's for the fans, it's not ideal. And I guess there'll be certain teams, sort of Scotland perhaps, who would benefit from the momentum of a big win. Maybe for regrouping mentally, it's good for a losing team. But for a winning team, you probably want to play straight after. So England, Wales, Italy, maybe licking some wounds. France, Scotland, Ireland probably want to kick
to have a week off with no one giving me England rugby chat was pretty good. And to be fair, no one was really talking about Quins in the rugby Prem Rugby Cup either. So I didn't get any abusive DMs this week from rugby fans anyway. So
now it's nice to have a week off predictions as well. It's nice not to be wrong every day of the week. So it's I'm sure we'll make up for it this weekend.
What I would say on that, obviously I listen to, unfortunately, every other rugby pod every single week as well. Everyone got it wrong.
Oh, yeah.
No one, I think Danny Kerr put it the best. He was like, if anyone would have said at the beginning that England after 11, 12 matches in a row was going to perform how they did against Scotland and Ireland, no one would have said that, every single person was talking about Grand Slam decider. Everyone expected France to be this good, but England, France, last weekend, last match, Super Saturday, everyone was talking about it. So
yeah, I do believe that I said that I thought everybody would beat everybody, but I didn't see it in the fashion that it's been, I guess. There's always going to be upsets, and I don't really see Ireland smoking England. The way they did was an upset. Them doing it wasn't really an upset to me.
I was upset.
Yeah, you're upset. I understand why people would be upset, but yeah, I think it just shows the level of that tournament. And same, they say Six Nations is the best international tournament, but you could say it for the Rugby Championship as well. Argentina are a force as well, and everybody beats everybody there, and that's what makes it great. And again, I'm very aware that Wales haven't beaten anybody in quite some time, so maybe
it's coming.
Yeah. I feel something in the waters, but no, it was awesome, and having you in Wales and experiencing the Principality and actually realizing what I've been telling you for years, that as far as a rugby experience, it's a cathedral of rugby being at the Millennium Stadium. And
the chicken pie in the Principality is better than any other food that I've had at Twickenham.
No, why would you do that? Why would you boil it down to the chicken pie? Admit it, during even the Scottish anthem, which you rated as the best one, being in the Principality, I told you it was a spiritual experience. When the roof is closed and the buzz was real, those anthems.
I loved it, right? Like I had Ref Link on, which I brought back as well, but every now and then I was just turning it off and taking it out just to hear that many Welsh men sing in harmony.
And
I was
women.
just like,
man, it's all guts and glory there. Like that was, I guess, pre-kickoff. That was the first the first in a long time where I felt a general energy in the place. In the past, it's been pretty grim going into it, but I was there with my father and my brother, and sort of, being a Welshman, being arm in arm with your bro and your dad, singing the anthem with that energy coming back at you. It's an out-of-body experience.
I've got a big smile on my face just thinking about it. Like, it was such a good few days. And obviously, I mentioned last week with Andrew Ford, like going to the 20s even. 10,000 in the Arms Park, a great performance as well. We had friends that were on the pitch as well, which was even better. A fair few pints were sunk afterwards as well. So
it's a festival of rugby, that weekend in
Cardiff.
Cardiff.
It was good. Well, look, talking obviously about the fallow week, we had a lot of domestic rugby go on. We had a full URC round. We had a full Super Rugby round. And again, like talking about anyone can beat anyone, I think this is where it's quite an interesting one to look at the depth of the squad, right? Like, so we saw in the URC, Ulster, Leinster and Glasgow all had to rotate and all lost.
Yeah.
Now, it didn't really affect the playoff places that much just because of the gap. But obviously, Dragons had a decent result.
Yeah, look, again, I agree with you about the URC. The Dragons, were probably the least affected from the international window, give or take one or two players, two of our best players, obviously. But seeing the level of competition now, even now, there's not really, it's not the Giants against the Shags. Everybody can really have a go at each other. Leinster always, even sort of outside of the international windows, would send the Shags to Wales. But good for Cardiff, a game for the purists. Yeah, it was 8-0 up until 70 minutes. But you have to give it to Cardiff, and Leinster are playing the hand they've got left, and the same for the other teams that are more impacted by the international games. But it was still entertaining rugby. It wasn't like watching sort of second-tier rugby despite the internationals not being there. But it's good to see the Welsh teams doing well. Scarlet's got a losing bonus point. Again, we're up and sort of didn't survive the comeback. Ireland split them down the middle. Munster and Connacht did well, but the other two didn't do so well. So the biggest shock for me is the Saffers. They're not in an international window, and I know they're all playing each other. But the depth, they are sort of, apart from France now, they are the definition of strength in depth at all levels. Yeah. And for them to be, especially the Sharks, like as a Dragons fan, I would kill for a sniff of the Sharks support players, and they just don't seem to click.
It's a crazy one. Like, obviously, this weekend we saw. So last week Lions played their refixture or the rescheduled match against the Sharks, and they won. Right now, Lions are the smaller of the four. Right, like not including really cheaters, but Lions in Joburg. Beautiful stadium, but obviously because of where it's situated, they don't get a massive amount of support either. They turn over the Sharks. Then this week they had the Stormers, and again, everyone for the last 6 months has been beating the drum about Sasha. Sasha's leading that team as captain and fly half, and the Lions won. So now the Lions end up winning the URC South African Shield, right? Which also, I know we spoke about like not every game having a trophy, right? But I think these URC Shields, especially the South African one, like that's a really cool concept that you've got, 4 big teams all fighting for positions in that Bock jersey. And then you get little old Lions from Joburg beating these superstar teams, it's incredible what they can do. And then when you look at the Sharks lineups, like you said, man, their subs bench,
it's crazy.
The caps on the subs bench is just outrageous. But they just, they can't do it together, which is crazy.
I'm on the fence with the South African Shield and the Welsh Shield and all these things. I get it.
Is that because you're not winning yours?
Even if we did win it, it wouldn't mean anything. The Lions won theirs. It's not going to mean jack shit. They're not going to get any more Springboks from it. And it's a weird thing, and you mentioned this before. Has it got to the point now where sort of the domestic game isn't being taken as seriously by the players? That's a very harsh thing to say because I'm sure they all take it as sort of seriously as they can do, but something isn't working. And then, when they play for the Box, they're superheroes, but then, they go down a peg when they play for their regions or their provinces or their clubs. It's a mystery to me. But the one thing I love about the South African teams, and shout out to Chris from All Things Rugby, the graphics you can create.
Yeah.
You see like our sort of post-match reports where sort of, there's a lion eating a shark, or it is the most fun sort of, I guess, creatively to play with when we do these posts. So I always enjoy seeing them just at full time. But it's look, credit to the URC. They've managed to somehow, I was always against the fact that we had salary caps within our league, but not for the league. So always created this discrepancy. But somehow, by luck or by just sheer chance, it's become incredibly competitive at all levels. And yeah, it was a good stopgap in between Six Nations weeks.
Well, look, talking about competitive at all levels moves us down to Super Rugby. And again, that whole kind of passion to play for your club or franchise, it's an interesting one in Super Rugby because they have like the Shoots Shield and the NPC, there's more of a club heritage than the franchise heritage, right? But Super Rugby is 3 rounds in and everyone has won a game so far, which is, again, look, Drua played anyone to go to Fiji and play in the wet and the rain against a Hurricanes team that is, pretty stacked. We were talking about like Geordie last week.
Oh, yeah.
Mate, Drua on their day can beat anyone as well, So the likes of them and Moana have added such value to that. But at the top of the league, we said at the beginning of the season with our mate Gitz running the Broncos with the boys, Brumbies are 3 from 3.
Yeah. I don't think anybody would have predicted that before the season kicked off. But, I love Super Rugby and I love the fact that Moana and the Drua are in it is such a breath of fresh air. It kind of is given the impetus that maybe the Jaguares and the Japanese team didn't quite introduce because they're so competitive and they're so entertaining. But, it's the Super Rugby stuff now is that I feel there's this constant air of we miss the South African teams.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what especially at the international level, they almost hold South African rugby accountable to their dip in form at an international level. But the one thing I love about Super Rugby always, and I remember when I was growing up, Saturday morning before we would play, you'd wake up and you'd watch Super Rugby on Sky Sports, and it would give you such a buzz to play because of the way they play the game. And you could if you were to do a top 3 try highlights across a weekend, they'd probably all be Super Rugby most weekends. Obviously, we play on a bit of a wet paddock in the Northern Hemisphere, but that Queensland Reds try on the weekend, that is sort of Hall of Fame Harlem Globetrotter rugby.
And the fact that it's not just the backs getting involved, you've got forwards throwing it between their legs, you've got people breaking on the outside. I think in that try you had no look pass, you had a between the legs, you had a break and offload, you had a quick, it was just, and then to have a forward again finish it off as well, you're like.
But I wonder how much of that is in the DNA of Southern Hemisphere rugby. And that was when we were growing up, it was always that, the difference between the All Blacks and the Wallabies and even the Springboks to Northern Hemisphere teams was they could all play ball. And that is as relevant now as it was back then. Is that because of the weather? Is that because we're programmed as tight 5 to just, head down, arse up, and they're programmed as tight 5 to head up, hands out the back?
Yeah, but look at France, right? So the French mentality is, well, if you would do that up the pitch, you can do that down the pitch, right? Yeah, so if Ramos wants to kick a crossfield under his own sticks, man, they do it.
Yeah.
And we'll get to obviously looking at the Six Nations, but France have got more tries starting from outside the 22 than anyone, but also have got the most points from 22 entries as well. So, rugby's rugby, right? It's if the space is on, the space is on. And yeah, look, we've seen in Super Rugby for years the Kiwis do it, the Aussies now doing it, and obviously we were chatting beforehand, that Reds try, how much of that is a coaching thing? With Les Kiss now going into the Aussie team, is that what we're going to get to see from, at national level, which will be incredible to watch, right? You can imagine Australia versus France where they're both trying to run it from their 22. Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah, I think that and again, taking over from Joe Schmidt and Les Kiss, you'd argue they're sort of polar opposites of each other game plan wise. But we always favour the guys that play heads-up rugby. Arguably, Wales against Scotland, that was the least structured they've looked in a long time, and that was what made them sort of succeed in many facets of the game. But, you know, we were always sort of programmed as fans to think that international rugby is different, and it's not how you play, it's if you win. And that's what we've been programmed to believe. But then we'd always lose to the guys that played heads-up rugby and spun it around a bit. So I don't know. This is one of those arguments we have all the time about people like Rassie. It'll take an innovator like the French team now. It's a watershed moment for rugby where not everybody has to be, apart from Meafu, 140 kegs and sort of blowing doors down. Everybody has to be able to play. And then now everybody will catch up to that. And then the cycle will start again. I don't know when that's going to happen and when people will start catching up. It takes a generation. They had England had it sort of forward domination all off 10. Then they had the 10-12 access from Ireland. South Africa have now changed the game. France are kind of changing the game.
Well, even with pods, like, you know, when New Zealand, you know, we're talking 2011, 15, that team were the first pod system to start pulling it out the back.
Yeah.
As often as they were. It's kind of like just a standard now. And now we're looking at, right, can we hit the third man in the pod? Can we hit the fourth man off a ruck? You know, like...
Yeah, we can get so rugby nosy about this, but even if you look at it from a sort of 1-3-3-1 pod system, for the longest time, up until sort of the sort of 2007, 2008, it was just round the corner, round the corner, round the corner, round the corner, round the corner.
Perfect for you, right?
Dream again, but that was just robotic forward play. Then it became, okay, we're going to play a 1-3-3-1, hooker stays, open side goes, 2 sets of pods of 3 in the middle, and the All Blacks really mastered that, and they were so structured. But I like, and that's why the Drua and Moana Pacifica and some of the All Black franchises as well, it is just so free spirited that I find it more enjoyable to watch than most of the URC. But I find the URC games probably more for the purist and more sort of, I don't know, they're more tense, I would say. But
we all love an 8-7 game in the rain, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that was a tough watch.
That's a tough sell. I mean, but, you know, not all games are created equally.
Yeah. Well, look, let's move on to our next segment, which is obviously the All Things Rugby breakdown. So we're going into the Six Nations this week.
Yep.
We are starting with some Friday night lights. How do you feel? Like we obviously mentioned about the Thursday night one. Friday?
Is it the closing ceremony for the Winter Olympics this time?
God, I tell you the worst bit is...
That's still going?
I actually don't know.
That's a good
I actually don't know. There's a lot going on in the world right now,
true.
Dave.
I
haven't been paying attention to the skeleton and the luge. But obviously, Friday night, you're away in Dublin.
Tough one. Yeah, I mean, Friday night away in Dublin as a Wales fan is, the only saving grace is that it's a great night after. Friday night in Dublin, no matter sort of win or lose on the booze mentality for the Welsh travelling fans, it's a great away game. But for the boys on the pitch, I think a lot of it depends on, I believe Costello's injury wasn't too severe. I don't know whether he's coming through it for the weekend. But that sort of change in quarterback at fly half was, I would argue, the biggest pivotal difference to us. Same as it was for Ireland against England. I saw Donnacha O'Callaghan on one of the podcasts, he does Tommy Bowe, the Offload, saying that, you know, a bit of Leinster blue bias. You know, if that was Prendergast, you are playing fly half, you've just steered your team to a sort of record victory against England. He's not really getting any praise. All going to JGP, it's all going to, you know, the battle of the tens is, you know, a bit cliche. And if our 10 that steered us so well is out, I think it'll write the game plan very well.
I mean, you've
Ireland.
got Kieran Azarati back, mate. What are you talking about?
Hey, I arguably, again, looks like a darts player, but he plays like a rugby player. He was most improved for me last year. The very sort of unimposing looking guy, but great sort of, he's a prop. And I like, he's got good feet, good ball in hand, but always in the tight spaces. Yeah, we've 2 call-ups. Obviously, Ryan Woodman from the Dragons and Kieran Azarati. But Ireland, I think they are, you know, on the crest of a wave from the England thing, from the England game, England thing. Being back in Dublin, fans are buzzing after smoking England. It's a massive, massive ask. It wouldn't be one that you put on the board before the Six Nations as a one to win.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because obviously, like we said it last week, you lot played so well, right? Like the likes of David Jenkins and Gary Lake, who were just carrying, tackling. Big one for Ireland this week. Bundy might be back. So he played for Connacht on the weekend. He's back in camp. Obviously, there was a big thing around him beforehand and stuff with the referee. Stuart McCloskey's been going so well.
100%.
What do you do with Bundy?
You leave him out.
Completely?
100%. At the end of the day, I'm a big Bundy fan. There's rumours he's going to Newcastle Red Bulls now next year. But you have to reward excellent performances. Yep. And if he walks back in, even the depth off the bench, maybe you give him a bench spot. But Stuart McCloskey, Terminator 2, he was outstanding. Yeah. So to not reward him with that 12 jersey, and this is your jersey to lose. It's the Bundy thing will be played up in the press, and he's a great player. But really, you're building on the back of Stuart McCloskey.
Obviously, they put Frowley on the bench last week. If you're going to go for that 6-2, I don't, without being too disrespectful to the Welsh forwards that I do think have been doing well, I don't think you always need a 6-2 against a team like Wales. Right. So it does leave an extra spot for potentially a centre to be on the bench. Yeah. Whereas Frawley can obviously play 10, 12, 15 if needed, So, yeah, look, it's Friday night in Dublin. Yeah. Anything can happen. You can imagine that Ireland have got a little bit more momentum now, getting that France one out of the way. Obviously looked incredible against England. So,
look, Ireland are just a better team. Yeah. And that's just the way it is. And it would take a worldy performance from Wales to upset them. And I don't think we even expect them to do that. And I just worry that the amount of volume of work that 5 or 6 of our pack are going through, how sustainable that is, unless and now we've got a new defence coach that's come in, a new system being integrated in a week's time. Yep. It's going to be difficult, but the only thing you can't argue about in the Scotland game is that the commitment was massive, the volume of work was huge, and realistically, Irish games are always a war of attrition. I said it before the World Cup. Ireland are one good ref away from losing a game, and
unfortunately, neither of those refs were in the England game. But
yeah, true. Even Hammy didn't help you. But it'll be very interesting, and I think it'll be a stepping stone, progress-wise, for Wales. I hope there is progress. I just hope it's not. They won't look at Scotland as a flash in the dark.
Over the Saturday, Scotland versus France to open it up.
Love it.
Cracking game.
Love it.
This is going to be a absolute, if Scotland play, and it's in Scotland, if Scotland play anything like they did against England, at spells against Wales, they looked, again, fantastic. We saw Finn's magical moments, right? And the ability to spot space. We know that France will switch off at some point. We saw the Italian try, right? That was crazy. But we also have seen them stand for 20 phases and defend, right? Jack Dempsey might be back for Scotland, which is huge. Right?
It's massive.
But looking at France, they've obviously updated their squad. Nolan Le Garric's back, which means no Luku.
Crazy.
Which is
embarrassment of riches.
Yeah, you'd all absolutely scream for that, right? Cameron Wackey's back. You want to talk about another monster, back row, second row, athlete around the field. Yeah. And then the biggest one, still no Entomac.
Oh, really? Why is that? No idea.
Look, we said Jalibert been playing so well, right? And obviously they moved Ramos into 10 when he pulled out last week.
Far out. That's, you'd assume that given a sniff of even a moderate injury chance, you'd bring in Entomac. But I don't think Scotland are going to win.
We'll save predictions to the end, but in terms of a game,
I think it'll be amazing. But the funny thing is, the Scotland's biggest point of difference against England was that their tight five, and especially people like Rory Darge in the back row, were smoking people. Yeah. And again, I keep going on about it. I know I sound like a broken record, but the confidence, the attitude, and the intent that they played with against England wasn't there against Wales. And I don't know why. And I don't know whether it's because Wales got on the front foot first, or because England were on the front foot for the first 15, 20 minutes. Sorry, it's against a different game against Ireland, but Scotland got on the front foot first against England, and then the momentum carried them forward. Wales got on the front foot first against Scotland, and that carried them forward until 65 minutes. But if Scotland come out of the gates like they did against England, then you'd give them a chance against France. But if they come out like they did against Wales, France would be 30 points up, where Wales were only 15 points up. So that's where I find it so interesting, the mental side of the game. As soon as you get momentum from the off, that first 10 minutes is so important for Scotland, clearly, that, England was the first game in a long time where I've seen them get the momentum early and carry it forward to 80. Whereas we saw Argentina got the wind up their nostrils in the first 10, carried it forward till 44, and then fell off. So it's very much it's Scotland's game to lose, I would say.
Again, without going into predictions, the last time DuPont was up north, right, he was wearing skins because it was that cold, and Glasgow did a job. So, yeah, look, we'll see. And obviously, the biggest game of the weekend, the biggest game in England's season so far. Yeah. I can't believe we're saying it, but England going to Rome is quite nervy.
But isn't that amazing? Isn't
for
that
who? Everyone other than English fans.
Yeah, for the tournament in general. You go back, not even 10 years ago. This is a foregone conclusion before kickoff.
Yeah.
And now the English fans are a bit antsy about it. And I love that. Welcome to my world.
I don't want to be in your world. I've said this all along. I was happy with just winning and, beating these teams by 50 and 40 and scoring tries for fun. Yeah. Now, our red zone entry is the worst. I think other than yours, it's the worst. Thanks. Right? So we'll just say it's the worst. Set piece isn't looking fantastic.
Yeah.
Right? Italy look better than they ever have. And Stephen Varney back at 9. Tommaso Allen back, probably again more bench coverage, but also plays 10, 15.
What about Juan Ignacio Brex?
And then Mr. Brex is back. But the interesting one is there, obviously Brex and Menoncello for the last 2 Six Nations have been arguably the best centre pairing.
Yep.
But Marin's been going so well, fullback, then centre.
If Brex is fit, he plays 30.
Of course, but then you've got Ange Capuazzo back. Louis Liner's also playing really well. So do you move potentially Ange Capuazzo to the wing, bring Marin back into full? But there's a lot that Italy can now do.
I know I hate the term utility, but having Marin to cover the back line, essentially, probably means you could play a 6-2 bench against England, which is going to be a very attritional game. No, I think it's amazing. And Italy being able to be such contenders is so awesome. And they play a good-looking game as well. It's actually quite fun to watch. They're a good second team to follow. And I think England should be weary. I'm not a big fan of Steve Borthwick's approach the last couple of weeks. I don't sign up to the same sort of Borthwick out mentality that a lot of rugby pundits are saying. But the psychologically for that team, when you take off some players 30 minutes in, and you've got to feel for Cowan Dickey, you got to feel even
Freddie Stewart.
Freddie Stewart, they brought him on for a minute after his bin and took him off. I just find those things that sets a really bad undertone to mood in the camp, where that's quite a bitchy thing to do, and really it doesn't serve any purpose. And I would imagine that the mood in camp, they're professional athletes, they'll fix it within a short amount of time, but there'll be an underbelly to, what, that was shit, this is shit, and what next? And
it's so funny though, because England have obviously done that twice before, right? They did it with Luther Burrell. England went on to win the game. That. Eddie Jones then did it with DC, the original DC, Danny Kerr. England went on to win the game. Borth doing it just didn't have the same look. Borth ain't going nowhere, right? I was getting texts saying, what if he loses another one? Man, the amount of money they paid Leicester to get him and Sinfield and Wigglesworth, he ain't going nowhere. Yeah. So we just accept it and hope that, he did. To be fair to him, he came out and he was like, "Look, when we won 12 in a row, we weren't the best team in the world, and when we lose 2 in a row, we're not the worst team in the world." Fair, right? Yeah. But it's the way we've lost.
But I don't agree. And again, I know Jamie George, he didn't come on and save the day at line-out, and I think that the thing more for me than anything is that Freddie Stewart and Cowan Dickey, they're sort of notoriously team men. You look at all the socials they put out, look at guys that get interviewed. They're kind of, they have this sort of heads of their own cliques in the England camp. They're very popular members of the squad. And when you see those things, that they kind of feel like targeted things, I think it sets a bad precedent for mood in camp. Yeah. And whether that has any impact on the weekend, I have no idea. And they're professional athletes. It's a different world. But I think the fan sentiment, the game wasn't a foregone conclusion at halftime. So to do that to those two guys, I felt it to be a bit poor taste, and it didn't serve a strategic purpose anyway. But yeah, save predictions till later. But that's a super exciting game. Good way to finish the weekend.
Agreed. So look, obviously last week we were in Cardiff, and you'll see the clips on our socials as we met up with Andrew Ford. But we are going to have a good old recap in our home and away section this week, where you get to travel Cardiff with yours truly, visiting everything you should do in Cardiff, including most bars on the strip.
On the strip.
My oh my, Cardiff, you were something special. My name is Sinead, and this is All Things Rugby away trip to Cardiff as we went to Wales versus Scotland in round 3 of the Six Nations. And what a few days we had. We started off a couple of days out from the game, exploring the town. Oh my God, they are proud to be Welsh. We went into the market and the food was incredible. I do think, however, if I stayed a little bit longer, I probably would have put on a little bit extra weight. There was so much to do, let alone being in the pubs early and getting a sight of the Scottish guys coming in with the bagpipes. As for match day in Cardiff, there's so much to do beforehand. The whole street is lit up with bars and the atmosphere was incredible. Now, I've heard that these experiences are almost religious when you hear the anthems go off. The Welsh anthem, Mr. Ford was right, incredible. And for the game itself, I thought I was going to be Wales's lucky little charm, but a couple of yellow cards and, some really good play from Scotland at times. But we thought Wales were going to do it all the way until the 75th minute. They were leading and the crowd was fully behind them. By the way, the scran in the stadium is absolutely fantastic. If you get a chance, make sure you try their donuts as well. The Welsh fans do not stop singing all game, which was awesome. Also got a glimpse into both BBC and Prem Sport on the touchline. The halftime show was incredible. It kept the atmosphere going. But it was the magician Finn Russell that saw Scotland over the end. If you don't get an opportunity to get into the stadium and watch the match live, make sure you download the rugby app to stay up to date with all stats, scores, and even get the highlights after the game. Cardiff, Principality Stadium, that was special. I'll definitely be back.
Okay, so now you've officially been ordained as a sort of pseudo-Welsh citizen. Marks out of 10?
I mean, your dad has had a go at me for not going up until this point, and now he's like, when are you coming back? Look, I had the best time, right? Like, obviously went to the Rugby Pod show on Thursday night, which was wicked. Great night out afterwards. The under-20s, as I mentioned, like, look, as good as the Principality experience was, I think for me there was something so pure about standing in a terrace, chinning a pint,
Old
cold.
rugby.
Like, it was, a real good night. And obviously, for the first time in us working with each other, I'm going to admit you were right.
Not the last time either.
Not that I was wrong, but you were right. It was incredible.
Yeah.
That national anthem, everyone talks about, like, you can see how Argentina are going to play with how many men cry in the anthem, right? Oh my God.
Not a dry eye in the house.
Oh my God. It was like, I'm not going to use the word religiously like you did, but it was incredible. Like, and obviously the performance backed it up. The night out was awesome. And just the whole vibe around town was just really, really good. And again, I think what you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, with it being so close to the stadium, it does make a massive difference, right? Like, you don't necessarily get a road beer because you bar crawl there.
Yeah,
like
you're surrounded by it.
But yeah, look, it was wicked.
The highlight for me was obviously taking you to a bit of not just Welsh rugby, but sort of world rugby history in the grog shop in Pontypridd. And obviously we didn't go without doing some shopping ourselves. And we'll share some videos of quite the assortment of Shabals and McCaws and Rory Best and obviously Sonny Bill and George North and John Fox. But it's things like that. And we met the family that run the grog shop. And it's things like that. If I could capture what makes Wales in general, not just Welsh rugby, but Wales in general, stood at the bottom of the stairs at the Angel Hotel watching the choir sing, and then the day after going to the grog shop and speaking to a family who are salt of the earth, Welsh family, through generations have just been doing things for the love of the game, about our sport or our heritage, whatever it may be. That is something that if you could bottle that,
Yeah.
it was just a beautiful thing. So shout out to the Grogs guys for sorting us out, and we'll be back to get more things for our shelves. Maybe some more shelves we'll need first, but it was interesting seeing you in that environment.
Yeah, look, I mean, we could obviously fill up this whole next section on socials from our Wales trip.
Right.
But going into the All Things Rugby socials for the week, there was some real interesting ones around the whole world this week.
This week.
Starting off down in Super Rugby, the Hurricanes, obviously, they went over to Fiji, and there was a real little wholesome moment of them in the pool joining the aqua aerobics class.
Very nice. Yeah, I saw there was a post before obviously doing the aqua aerobics. That's not the most macho active recovery, but they did a sort of like a men's health sort of shoot. All the boys.
The one you sent me.
Fair play. Pre-season has been good to the Hurricanes.
Rigosaurus, mate. Rigosaurus.
Yeah.
So going from one extreme to the other, a couple of days ago, was it yesterday now, the Six Nations Trophy.
I saw that. Why?
So it was in some sort of road accident, fire.
No.
But they're now they can't necessarily use this trophy anymore. They're going to take bits from it and make a new one.
So they're retiring the old trophy, but melting it down to make a new trophy, or using parts to make a new trophy?
So what we've decided here at All Things Rugby is we're just going to start again.
Right.
We're going to go back to England versus Wales. We're going to redo that game.
Yeah, finally.
And then we get another shot at Ireland and Scotland.
I just hope, I mean, there are some pretty horrendous trophies. The Stanley Cup is like 3 feet tall, and even the URC trophy is a bit of hardware, isn't it?
Huge.
I hope they don't go full American sports on it.
Well, you go the flip side. I have a childhood memory with trophies of the lads from the 2005 Ashes series just throwing it around, like playing catch with this tiny little...
I think the Ashes might be the most underwhelming trophy in the world. Even when they pose, they're all like holding a corner and they're posing with it. Yeah. Look, I mean, all good things come to an end. It's a weird thing. It's been in a road accident or whatever you said. That's a bizarre reason to change the trophy, but yeah, I hope it's not a crap one.
So the next one that you sent me, very, very impressive bit of skill, which kind of, again, leads us into another bit of a conversation. Do you want to talk through the beast running?
Right. So for those listening, we'll roll it for the guys on YouTube. But for those listening, this is a guy called DeMonte Capehart, who, for those of you that are familiar with the NFL, they do the NFL Combine, which is a sort of culmination of feats of strength, speed, agility. And this guy is 330 pounds. So that's bigger than Meafu. That's 150 kegs, 160 kegs. And he is running a 4.85 40-meter sprint, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But the reason that I wanted to share it, obviously just to sort of, we always have this comparison between NFL and rugby as far as these hybrid athletes. NFL is a bit more stop-start and a bit more power-based. But there was talk when the R360 conversation was happening that they would run a combine. And I just think that is the biggest open goal for rugby, especially to get us buying into the academies and get us buying into the pathways. A combine for rugby. I think they do the 40-meter sprint, they do the high jump, the long jump, the 100 kg bench press. People would buy into, I reckon you'd get more viewership on a combine, even if it was of existing athletes in rugby, than you would for some games, especially from a sort of how people consume media now. But seeing that big rig doing a 4.840 at 135 kilos, 330 pounds, 150 kilos. What would be the equivalent for us?
I mean, that you want to talk about like Meafu as the example. Don't get me wrong, in the close quarters, like phenomenal, but that's some off the back fence
Standing start.
Oh man, yeah, like incredible. And again, like I remember when we first started this, and you asked me like, what does rugby, all things rugby, mean to me? And I mentioned about the NFL and the NBA doing like the All Star and the Pro Bowl and like the skills challenge, and I'm like, that's incredible. And I've heard like a couple of others talk about it recently, but yeah, look, it's such a big opportunity that would be great.
I just don't think we glorify the athleticism enough. And I remember I went to see the NBA 2 or 3 years ago. And I remember seeing it was LeBron James, the USA team. And LeBron James was there, and he moved like he was sort of 6'1" and 100 kgs. Then you realize he's 6'8" and 110 kgs. And you're like, that's like seeing someone like Adam Beard, who runs like he's carrying a piano on his back. And you're like, the difference in athleticism across sports, across everything, is so fascinating. But one of I think it was Warby said it, rugby was the original hybrid athlete, where you got to do 40 minutes in a row, you're up, you're down, you're wrestling, you're grappling, power, strength, sprint, agility. High rocks is like the thing, but rugby have been trained like that for forever. And I just think that's such a cool thing that rugby could tap into overnight.
Yeah.
Just to get a combine or get some feats of strength but that guy blew my mind. He's so big, so quick, and fuck that. If he was running at me, there's no head in the spokes.
There was once a video of, was it? I think there was a channel called Comedy Central. It was either Comedy Central or Paramount, but they did an average person against an athlete.
Right.
And they did Ben Cohen chasing someone down, right, on a rugby pitch, and your points were, you could pick your head start.
Right.
So some people were going from halfway, some obviously the 40, some the 22. I'll send it to you so we can talk about it next week. But that is another one. Like, it's like putting a Joe Bloggs in the Olympics, right? Like when you understand what rugby players can actually do, like the videos you see of a slow motion line out, where they're not just lifting someone, they're letting go, and this person, this 6'8" giant who's 120 kilos, is in the air. Like, what?
But not to labour the point, but people don't appreciate it, and everyone always used to think, well, Kobe Bryant's not that big. It's because he was always stood next to Shaq. Kobe was 6'6". But then you think, well, rugby players, are they really that big and that powerful?
That's how people must feel standing next to me all the time, right? So look, there's another couple. The biggest one, I sent it to you this morning. Nice. The biggest signing of the season. We obviously have a Perpignan shirt next to us, right?
It is.
And I mean, there's been some incredible play. I mean, Dan Carter went over.
Yeah.
Right? But Perpignan have pulled out all the stops to announce a mid-season signing of the one and only Luke McGrath.
Yeah, I think the majesty of this is going to get lost. But check out Perpignan socials for the announcement. Look, if I was Luke McGrath, I'd be chuffed. They made a big old fuss for him. But you're right, I was a bit anticlimactic.
Yeah. Look, again, great video, great story. Like, and it's actually like, I was watching it going, this is great. This is something that's so special. But Luke McGrath?
Bit underwhelming. But shout out Luke McGrath. All the best, mate. Enjoy Perpignan. But I was expecting Dan Carter.
Yeah. So last one on specifically our socials, we were chatting about it the other day. This new documentary.
I actually watched it last night, the Ben Young's documentary on concussion. It was powerful. Genuinely, like, shout out to Ben Young's. Like, I actually think it's much harder to be so close to rugby. He's just fresh out of the game, to take such a view and to be. It's not an expose by any means, but it is quite hard hitting. And
I'm Ben Youngs, England men's most capped player. I love rugby, but it is brutal. And with that comes the risk of head injury. At the start of my professional career, you got banged on the head, you got on with it. But with some former players dealing with degenerative brain health conditions.
Can't even remember being in Australia. It doesn't even look like me.
Emotions are always close to the surface.
Was safety a
I've suffered concussions playing rugby, some quite bad ones. And there was always that sort of concern of, you shake it off now, but what are the long-term effects of a concussion? But I was also part of we signed up for this brigade, and I wasn't playing at the elite level either, so it was different. But this lawsuit against World Rugby is all levels. Hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of players now that have signed up to it, which has kind of killed the momentum of the lawsuit in general. But there's some really powerful moments in it from Ben Youngs. There's a moment where he's interviewing Lewis Moody. Obviously, very sadly, he's going through MND right now. And it's just, men aren't the best at times of sharing their emotions, but watching, you can see yourself in everybody in the documentary, as a teammate, as a friend, as a brother, whatever it may be. And even he's there with his son, and there's a concussion at grassroots level for his kid. And, it's just it's just brilliant. He doesn't really take a side. He doesn't really say, well, yeah, we should stop this or start this. He still looks at it through the lens of, if I could do my time again, I would. But you speak to Steve Thompson, and he says he wouldn't. And that it's just a brilliantly done thing. It's on YouTube as well. It's on the BBC iPlayer in the UK for guys in the UK. But, I applaud Ben Youngs for doing it, because I'm sure there are some segments of the rugby community that will kind of excommunicate him for being that guy. But good, it's a really powerful, just a brilliant watch.
Nice, I'm looking forward to watching it. So, my favourite feature of the week.
Drum roll.
Going into our next segment, Rassie Watch.
He's back.
So last week, they said that during the Six Nations, they were going to get all the big dogs into London, stick them in a room, no doubt spend a lot of World Rugby's money that they have so much of, and do the State of the Game conference.
Right.
Which reunited Rassie with our friend Jack Nienaber. And obviously, Mr. Rassie was there for the clicks and the views.
This is the Conor McGregor war.
Conor McGregor, look, he is the biggest troll.
Yeah.
He's so smart. He obviously knows what Dr. Erasmus knows what he's doing, right? But
the king of poking bears. I just, for me, as funny as it is, and again, I'm a Conor McGregor fan as well, so I loved every bit of it. But I wanted to see maybe 30 seconds before, when they're choreographing it. Right, Jack, you just, you wave your arms around and you walk, right? Some of them are...
Hold on a second. Hold on. Mr. Accent is not doing a
No, I can't. I can't. I haven't practiced enough. My Jack Nienaber impression got me a lot of shit from a lot of Saffers, by the way. But yeah, the thing about Rassie, and actually there's Jim Hamilton released his walk-along sort of chat with Eddie Jones, and he sort of says, they know what they're doing. It's obviously taking heat off players at times, but really... The press think they're in control, but really, these guys like Rassie and even Eddie, man, they don't do anything without knowing the end game. I love it.
Eddie's pod's a good listen.
Is it really?
Yeah. He doesn't hold back.
I know, but I just can't do it.
Oh, God. You want to talk, our whole thing was let's talk about it unfiltered. Let's do what we do in the office, but just stick some lights and cameras on, right?
Yeah.
Man, Eddie does that. Unfortunately, he's too close to the camera on Zoom, so you just see his big giant head, right?
Dad style.
But look, he shoots the shit exactly what he says,
But he's now in a purple zone like Japan, where the media aren't involved. They're not meddling in his stuff, so he has this sort of free reign to do what he wants. Look, Eddie was good. Rassie is great.
Yeah. Well, look, moving on to our next bit.
The fun stuff. My favourite bit of every episode, some challenges. And funnily enough, for the first challenge, it's not so much a challenge, it's more of a discussion, which blew my mind last week, was the Six Nations prize money. So, do you know what the total prize pool is for the men's Six Nations tournament?
I don't, but my favourite boys at Guinness obviously sponsor it, so...
Got to be big money.
Yeah, it has to be big money. Otherwise, they'd be sponsoring us, right?
So the prize pool is £18 million.
For the whole thing?
For the whole tournament. First place is £6.5 million. Second place, 3.5. Third place, 2.5. Fourth place, 2. Fifth place, 1.5. And sixth place is £1 million. And there's £1 million bonus for a Grand Slam.
It's crazy, right? If you think about, Premiership is, 5.5 million salary cap for the season. Right. And you're saying that if you win the Six Nations...
The biggest thing for me is that we always, especially in rugby now, we divorce sort of the playing side and the financial side, and we don't really talk about it as conjoined things. But the losses at the WRU were £7.5 million. And we've been coming last. And the difference between coming last and getting a Grand Slam is £6.5 million. So really, if you look at it that way, what impact does winning have on running a successful union, and what comes first? Is it like a chicken or the egg thing? Do you invest to win, or do you only win so you can invest? And I just found it fascinating that we don't really talk about like Italy and Scotland and the Spooners for the last sort of 10, 15 years. It's a credit they've survived. There's a clear reason why Wales have been able to invest in the Englands and the Frances, and Ireland, they've just been making more money. But the disparity between top and bottom, it's mad to me.
Yeah, and also, I mean, that big number, right? Like, we're saying 18 million for the whole thing.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Like, when you look at other sports...
It's crazy.
Like, unfortunately, we always talk about the Ronaldos and the Messis of the world.
Yeah.
Ronaldo could wake up in the morning, and by the time he's had his AG1 and his coffee...
Yeah.
Has earned...
Which he made money on as well.
My God. Like, he's earned more than...
Yeah. But that's where the chicken or the egg comes. £18 million across all teams in our Premier tournament in Northern Hemisphere rugby, across everything that goes into that from a team perspective, is less than probably 4 or 5 days of the top footballer in the world. But
it's crazy, right? There was a couple of obviously talking points last couple of weeks. Adverts during scrums, I had no issue with it, right? Like, it's split screen and all I'm not seeing is someone clear mud off their shoe.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, I'm okay with this. But if you're going to put our top... It is arguably the best annual competition across sports. It would challenge it, right? Like we've said, anyone can beat anyone, and the drama, the momentum, the history. But it's on free TV.
Yeah.
So we're not making money there, but then we're moaning if we put a commercial in, and then we're saying, well, there's not enough money in the game. Well, what do we do? If we take that away and we give it to someone else, I'd love to know what Prem Sport, for example, paid for one game around, is it? I'd love to know what they paid for it, because, again, like...
It's a simulcast, right? They're
exactly.
Not exclusive, yeah.
So if I say to you, right, one game around is actually going to be just on behind paywall...
Yeah, look, you can't have your cake and eat it too, and rugby is a bit sort of tentative to actually make those big decisions. But really, it's the age-old debate with rugby. We want players to get paid more, but we don't want to pay any more to watch it.
Yeah.
Well, you can't have it both ways. So. Yeah. But yeah, interesting.
One for you.
Hit me.
I want you to blind rank 5 Welsh players.
Oh.
New generation.
Okay. Okay. Hit me.
And I've obviously put your favourite guy in the middle, just to kind of see...
It's not blind anymore, is it? But okay, fine.
Sorry. Well, so, number 1, Mr. Dan Biggar.
Ooh, Biggs. I think Bubba Biggs at 3, right in the middle of the road. He's a crucial part of a lot of our biggest victories. But Anscombe was there and thereabouts as well. He came in sort of James Hook, Stephen Jones. He was still a 100 cap, still a captain. Lions test, 3.
Lee Halfpenny.
Okay, I've done this wrong. Lee Halfpenny, I'm going to put at 4, which is harsh. I probably would have swapped him for Biggs. But Lee Halfpenny, I think, was the most comforting boot in world rugby for a long time for Wales and the Lions. If you had a penalty 40 metres anywhere, he was our Ramos.
Oh, yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Mr. Alwyn Jones.
1. 100% 1. And again, obviously, I appreciate the complete bias, but 100% he's 1, just because of, obviously, longevity shouldn't be the only factor, but he was such a icon when he was playing, and you could just feel everyone looking towards him during games. And yeah, Mr. Elite Standards, always 1. GOAT.
So you've done 1.
I've got 2 and 5 left.
1, 3, and 4. Shane Williams.
Shane Williams, I'll put at 2, which I think Shane Williams probably played a little bit too long, but Shane Williams was probably the only true X-Factor player we had for a long time, and he's Wales' top try scorer. When the game was falling apart, everyone looked to Shane to make a difference, but I think, defensively he sort of fell apart towards the end of his career, but he had, if you go back through Shane's career to the very, very end, his last game for the Ospreys, his last game for Wales, he scored in the last minute of both games. he had a proper fairy tale beginning, a fairy tale end, and a legend.
Which means you've got 5 left.
Just 5.
Sam Warburton.
That's harsh on Wobbs.
Yeah.
Well, the thing for Warby is that I actually think he's underrated. When you look back at his highlights, he was a monster when he was playing. But he retired for the right reasons, but didn't play long enough. I know that's harsh, but it's, double Lions captain, youngest Wales captain, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
But I wish we had him for 5 more years.
I think the whole rugby world would have liked that though as well.
Yeah. Right. Over to you. I'm going to give you a fun one. So there's no right or wrong answers to this one, but I want you to blind rank these rugby icons. So not necessarily the best players, just iconic rugby players.
Because my Lomu comment didn't get me in enough shit last time.
Richie. Oh. That's Richie McCaw for the uneducated, but Richie.
Number 2, because again, like in my lifetime, like arguably one of the best leaders, captains, and successful as well.
I think you're going to go that. Sia Kolisi.
4. Because I
hate this. Go on.
look, as an icon, again, I think it's kind of like almost like the Mandela moment we spoke about. Like, to someone that is from, a small township in South Africa.
4 icons.
Fine, but like I look at him as a player as well, and I'm like,
It's not about players.
I know, but
we just
I
lost
have
connection
to.
with South Africa.
I have to go. I don't massively rate him that much.
Oh
like,
my God. Right. Moving on. Jonah.
5. Yeah, just look. I'm doubling down.
No,
I'm doubling down, man. Look, I've said it time and time
Icon?
again. I've said it time and time again.
Maybe you
right?
missed
Like,
the context. Icon.
I know, but like, he's not an icon for me. What can I relate to a 6.5 foot giant monster?
Icons of you've missed. Fine. 5. Oh, I actually feel a bit sick. Sonny Bill.
1.
Ooh. Love Sonny Bill. So he's 1. Jonah's 5.
3 different sports. A champion in all of them. A monster on the pitch. Has got
technically 4 sports. Sevens league.
Yeah, like,
union and boxing.
incredible. And I just think that, like, his story, I remember when he came here and we heard that talk, and this is before I got to meet him properly, right? But, like, I know his, like, party boy phase, that I'm like, that's my guy, right? Then you see what he does on the pitch. And then to also have that family element of him as well. Like, man, for me, he's an absolute living legend.
I don't disagree with you on all those points, but justice.
We've got a statue of him now
Justice
as well.
for Jonah.
Like,
All right, finally, Pollock.
oh, God.
So for the record, you've only got 3 left. That means you've put Pollock above Sia and Jonah.
I think you've done me dirty there.
Well, you've done yourself dirty there, mate. That is a disgrace, by the way.
What I would say about him, right, is he's so early in his career.
I don't care.
Right. And I think if you talk about, look at DuPont, right? We're at a point where we are genuinely living and watching one of the best players of all time. And that conversation's got to be had, right? It's almost like the tennis situation. We got an opportunity to watch Nadal, Federer, Djokovic,
The golden
Murray
age.
at the time, all of them. And I know, obviously, you look at now, it's different, but, we got to watch that. And we don't know where Pollock's career is going to go. But he could
No, he couldn't.
easily take some hardship now
I'm going to stop you there.
and come
couldn't.
through as, to be fair, he could be, in 5 years' time, talking about one of the best back rows in the world. He has got everything needed to be...
I agree with you. Talent-wise, the guy's a gun. But just for the record...
Oh, you've done me so dirty.
Above Sia and Jonah.
I picked you 5 Welsh people,
Bro.
and I would have put Bomb in it, right? Like, and I was like, no, let's go for, like, give Dave some talking points. And you went...
You've made your bed.
Wow.
Shout out Sonny Bill. I'm sorry, Sia. And R.I.P. Jonah.
Well, look, let's move into something that's going to probably give us more shit. We spoke a little bit about it last week. We're going to go through the 6 teams of the 6 nations.
Right.
And quick fire, we're going to go team for team. you can bring back one player to add into this team right now for this weekend.
Right.
You can start with Wales.
Wales, as I said, I would 100% go John Fox. Not because of personal bias, but just because I think people underestimate how difficult that 13 channel is to defend. And we've definitely... Eddie James had a great game, probably his best game ever for Wales on the weekend. But that comfort of trusting your 13, we're probably not there yet. And if I could... there's arguments to be made for other parts of the pitch. Maybe at 10, bringing back somebody like Biggs, someone like Anscombe, even just a genuine out-and-out try scorer. They're playing Zam at 15. Like, all those things is a shout-out for someone like George, someone like Shane, those guys. But if I could pick from the last generation someone to come back now, it'd be John Fox, 100%.
Okay.
England?
Sam Burgess.
Whoa! Really?
Yeah. I've been thinking about this a lot recently.
Why?
One, obviously, he got dealt dirty hand in like what you've just done to me, right? But like, I think in 2015, he was back row, centre. He never really got given an opportunity to kind of just nail this position, right? But what England are missing at the moment is that give me the bloody ball
Gain line 12.
and let me just duck my head and go. I mean, the guy played a grand final with a broken jaw. Like, you want to talk about someone that is going to catch and run and turn around and go, shut up and just come with me. I don't think there's anyone... Like, arguably, Manu might have been one of the best ball carriers we've ever seen, right? But for England in the back...
Yeah.
But Burgess, I mean, come on.
Just for the record, you're saying if you could bring any player back from the previous generation for England, you pick Sam Burgess.
Yeah, second would be Carl Eastman. Look, I think that we have talent everywhere, right? Like,
but if you had Sam Burgess, Manu Tuilangi to pick from a team sheet, you pick Sam Burgess
right now.
Yeah,
Manu's still playing, so. But look, I think Burgess is.
Fair enough.
He's unfortunately gonna almost be tarnished with the Union name, right? But like, I think he could have been incredible.
Wow. All right, I'll do Scotland. I would go Stuart Hogg. Peak prime Stuart Hogg before personal issues, off-field issues. I think he was actually world class. Like, he was electrifying pace. Where he'd fit in right now, I don't know, because I'm a
That's
big player.
the question.
But Scotland arguably are better in every position now than they've ever been.
Yeah. So
it's very difficult to shoehorn. I was a big Jason White fan, just because he smoked people every game. But Stuart Hogg, I think you'd find a place for him because he was that good. You'd probably move Kinghorn to the wing and whatever. But, when he wasn't in court, he was class.
Okay, I'm gonna go France.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go for my themes carrying on here. Jonathan Danty.
Okay.
I feel like that backline at the moment is so good at moving the ball, right? And everything is going wide. And we're talking about the LBBs and, even without Pinot. But I think we're forgetting that, like, they've had some monsters in the midfield as well that, like, they've kind of moved away from at the moment. And I just love that old school, let me run it off 12, like, let me just get me the ball from the scrum and let me just have a shot. And, we're seeing, like, props break the line at the moment, right? And we're thinking, man, put a bit more speed on that. I'd love to see the likes of, the Dantes come back into that position.
Interesting. I think, again, France as well, arguably, they're excelling in all positions historically. So it's very difficult to bring somebody from the past when, like, Mathieu Bastereau on his day from the Jonathan Danty mould, you'd find a place for him somewhere.
Or even big man up here, right? Like
Seabass, Chabal.
But again, you look at their back row at the moment and they're basically playing five back rows.
Yeah.
So,
all right, I'll go for Italy. Look, again, much in the same mould as Scotland. Not many positions you bring back that they don't have a better player in right now. But Sergio Parise, you bring him back, he'd fit in, wouldn't he? I mean, world class in it. And just for his sake, he got stuffed for 12 years of his career. I think he would really flourish in the team they have now. And, him and Lamaro would make a pretty decent partnership, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But again, 1 to 15, they're probably, there's more sort of, to the icons point, bringing back like a Castro Giovanni, a Sebastian Chabal for France, these guys that are like iconic and more sort of cartoon characters and villains that you can get behind. I'd love to see Castro and Chabal back, but Parise, be refreshing to have him back.
Ireland?
Yeah. There's only one, really.
Yeah, look, I think, well, you say that, but you could bring back either of them and it would settle the debate, right? If we're on the same line.
Going tens.
Yeah, like, you could put Rog in that and go, well, no one's challenging it. Or you could put Sexton in it and you go, no one's challenging it.
Look, hot take from me. I was never a Ronan O'Gara fan. I never really got it.
That is a hot take.
I never got it. I understood this kicking game, playing behind a Munster pack, but
He's one of the all-time top point scorers.
Yeah, but he didn't win those penalties. He just kicked them. Yeah, again, I'm sorry, but like I prefer Rog as a commentator and a coach than I ever did as a player, and I think by all accounts he's obviously a great guy, but I never ever got it.
Is it the gloves?
Did he wear the sticky mitts? Yeah, I think Sexton, in general, Sexton had a slower start, but as a rugby player, I found Rog to be a liability in every team, and I always thought that defensively, and I always thought that, especially for the Lions, like unless they were playing the Shags in midweek, you know, dagger through the heart, single-handedly lost us that second test in South Africa.
Oh, man.
Got bumped in the corner for Jacques Fourie after getting knocked out, then bangs it in the air and takes him out in the air. That's a 10-point swing from one guy. Sorry, Rog. I mean,
he's definitely not coming on the pod now, is he?
But again, that's not to deny his game management and his kicking to corners and playing Munster rugby and all those things. He was great at them. But as an international 10 in today's game, no chance. No chance.
Wow.
Yeah. Sexton. I would shout out Squidge Rugby for every nickname for Sexton, but Johnny Sexton, I think, would walk back in.
Oh, God. Well, look, I think we leave that bit there before we get in too much other trouble. So, look, moving on, focusing on this weekend.
Predictions?
We're going to go into our ATR's predictions for the weeks, the most viral comments we have had, and
Bring on the abuse.
The most abuse I have taken since I was a child. So thank you very much for the All Things Rugby fandom that we're clearly getting. Starting off Friday night.
I think a huge mountain to climb for Wales. I think, I hope we're in it up until half-time. Yeah, that's all I can sort of say. I think we'll be within touching distance to half-time, and then we won't survive the second half. I would say Ireland by 11.
I'm going to go Ireland by quite a big score, because I don't think that emotionally, especially after a week off, I think that's probably done you the worst.
Right.
I think that if you went out of that Scotland game with that performance and went straight into it, you'd be like, lads, we've just done this.
We can do it.
Now let's carry it away. And I think Ireland, the rest has probably done them the better.
Right.
You know, like they have an opportunity to basically go, okay, let's park everything that's happened and go again.
Yeah.
And I just think like the likes of McCloskey, we said, Balakoon, they're playing in form again. So
I think we're having these predictions before teams are announced. So I think team selection will make a huge difference to it. If we manage to maintain a lot of the team from the Scotland game, I think by 11. If there's wholesale changes, especially at 10, then I think you're right. I think it could be a lot more, but I'm going 11. You're going
21. I think Ireland bonus point.
That's fair enough.
Second game of the week, the real good. I'm really excited to watch this one. Scotland versus France.
I mean, Scotland's record against France is up there with their record against England, right? I think they win more away than home, maybe. I fancy Scotland to be. I fancy Scotland to be close, but I just don't see France. I just can't see France losing. I think Scotland will make a good game of it, but I think France will pull away probably in the last 15, 20 minutes. Only because, apart from that England game, that's probably the sort of unique moment where they've kept that intensity for 80. Then I think France will be France by 17.
Oh, that's still a big score.
Yeah, I think they'll run away with it in the last 20.
Weather dependent.
Yeah, hopefully it's warm.
Oh, God, if it pisses it down, Scotland have got a chance, man. Like, Scotland can make it a horrible game. France will still throw the ball around.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I think that
Italy was pissing down.
Yeah, and look at what happened there, right? Like,
they still smoked them by 40.
Yeah, but again, you wouldn't say that they played the best, you know. And I think Scotland, as a a rugged team where things aren't necessarily
Just destructive.
Yeah, they can do it. And like, if Dempsey's back as well, like we've seen how good they're back. That break like Bayliss made around the corner, for example, like that's what they're bringing off the bench. So I'm just like, I think Scotland are going to give it a bloody good go. Like,
Go on.
France by a score because like you, I don't see France losing.
France by 7, France by 5,
France by 7 because they're going to kick their points as well. You know, like
Yeah.
it's funny because I don't think France would ever be the let's just take 3 team. Which
Yeah.
if you're playing up in Murrayfield and it's cold and it's wet, and as I said, if the pontoon skins,
Yeah.
right, like that's probably what you should do.
Yeah.
But I just think they're going to still. Do you remember a couple of years ago when they played England, they actually missed like 4 chances to win the game. I remember like Depot broke through and give it to Pinot and like he missed it, and there was loads of drop balls that is unlike them.
Yeah.
A wet ball in a cold Murrayfield with Flower of Scotland going and the crowd like Saturday afternoon. It's a great game for Scotland.
As if we're reducing France to being shit because it's a bit nippy outside. Give them some credit, man.
What would you say if your opposite scrum half was wearing skins? He does not want it.
Fierce DuPont, I'd say wear whatever that you want, mate. You're smashing.
Get him sponsored.
Exactly.
Okay. And then, oh God, I can't.
And then the game of the weekend.
I can't even believe that we're actually going to have a full conversation about it. We used to rotate for this
send the
game.
shags. Man, I think it's going to be extremely close. But I think England will win. I think, you know what? This is so difficult to predict the Italians. I think England will win comfortably.
Comfortably?
Yeah.
I fucking hope so.
Yeah.
Like,
I think comfortably, which is harsh on Italy. I don't know why I think that, and I'm probably going to get spanked for even saying it. But I think it will. I think they'll get ahead early on, and then it'll just be a sort of fourth gear to.
I hope that week was enough to go. Breathe, lads.
Do they pick George Ford? Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh God. I think if you're going to make the change, this is the week to do it.
Yeah.
And then you say to Finn, go and show me why you want to do it in Paris as well.
You put Finn Smith in at 10?
Yeah, I would.
No, I think that the only shining light you had in the last game was Ollie Lawrence. Is he crook for this week?
And he's still got beat up.
He's banged up, he can't play, he's injured?
So he's on it. They put him down as rehab for the... I think talks about Seb I was like, please don't. Like, for me, Seb Atkinson is a great Premiership player. The same way Dingwall's a great Premiership player. Do I want him to play 12 for England? Not massively, but then we're like, we're talking about, do we bring back Daly and Henry Slade again? It's like...
Don't bring back Elliot Daly, for God's
Well, they
sake.
left Max Ajomo out the squad, who just played on the weekend for Bath again.
Criminal.
You're like, what are we doing?
No, I think the biggest threat that you have with the Italians is the sort of Brexancello through the middle. And because England haven't really carved out an identity for themselves in the backs, you need maybe Sam Burgess to be bringing back.
Thank you.
Somebody that just drills 12, 13 channel, take those 2 guys out and then get numbers around the corner. That back row is so mobile if they start Pollock again, whoever it may be. Getting Ben Earl, Pollock around the corner, once you've taken those 2 centres out of the game. But for some reason, in Italy, the things that's great about Italy, they can adapt their game, but people try and play Italy the Italian way. Yeah. Where really, if you just, drive it through 12 and 13 and get round the corner, I think England, and I hope for Borthwick's sake, they change their game plan. I would definitely drop George Ford. Just as you take off Cowan Dickey, you take off Freddie Stewart for those sort of petulant reasons. George Ford spanks it out on the full twice, and there's no repercussions to it because he's the coach on the field. I don't buy into that, and I think Marcus was pretty average when he came off, but you have to change something, whether it's Finn, whether it's Marcus.
Well, even George, he's talking about George Furbank, right, who hasn't had a lot of rugby this year, and they're saying is that the glue we need to have the second playmaker, right? Like, again, that's the other thing that we spoke about. That second playmaker
makes a big difference.
So whether it is a Slade or a Furbank, right, do you just throw it and go, all right, let's do the Northampton way? But
where's Feo Aboso? Injured?
He got injured in the, was it the first round? And he was out for the whole thing.
Shame.
Well, even the back row, like you talk about the balance of the back row, Pollock, Earl, Underhill didn't really work, right? So then you're like, he likes Guy Pepper at the moment. Is it now, especially against Italy's back row, do you just play a big 6? So do you move Chesham to 6 or Coles to 6? And
Do you know what would be great? Is the Willis brothers.
oh, fuck me.
Imagine the Willis brothers. They would probably walk in to that back row. That's with Ben Earl, Sam Underhill. They probably have them and Ben Earl.
Mate, Jack Willis moves him at Saracens.
But Ben Earl has to have a place in the team.
You want to talk about Sam Burgess? They're probably as close to the Burgess brothers, like just guns.
But imagine having them in now against Italy. I think Pollock and Underhill's a very destructive player. I like him a lot, but I would say that it's not the right game for someone like Pollock. You want some demolition men in the pack. But I will go England by 15.
Oh, God. I'm not even that confident.
Go on. Just get it out there. Just let it go.
I have to go England win because I can't.
Of course.
I can't see us losing in Rome. Can I? No, I can't. Fuck it. This is it. This is the week.
Wow. Against Italy.
This is it. Yeah, we did it against you lot. Now we're going to do it against Italy.
How many?
You need us to beat Italy.
No, right. Fight your own battles.
England by 24.
Oh, God.
Finn Smith to get us on the board early with some points.
I was being generous with 15.
And we're going to hope that Brex and Cello have not communicated properly this week in training.
They've had a tantrum together.
And we have all of a sudden found the next centre partnership that is going to stop the best centre partnership for the last 2 Six Nations. And
bold.
Very bold. But I just think that the other thing is, like, when you look at the leaders in that pack and you go, Genge, George, Itoje, Ford, getting together.
All completely off form.
I agree. But you don't think that they're going to get together and go, right,
we're shit.
How do we fix this? Yeah, I surely the most supported, with the most resource and the most teams. Fuck, we're talking about England against Italy.
Yeah.
Benetton and, by the way, Benetton, Wayne Pivac.
I know.
England by 24.
England by 15. And I'm being generous. So, yeah, look forward to the abuse over the weekend for these terrible predictions. But that's my prediction, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay.
Right. Let the games begin. I'm looking forward to a pleasant distraction over the weekend. And, yeah, Friday and Saturday, right? Not Friday, Saturday,
Friday night is you lot. Obviously, we've got the unfortunate time difference here, so it's going to be a late one on Friday.
Yeah.
And then Saturday afternoon.
No Sunday game.
No Sunday game. Not a fan of the Sunday games.
Me either. Enjoy your Sundays, guys. Right. Awesome, man. Look forward to it.
Once again, thank you very much for watching and listening. If you haven't already, follow us across all of our socials. Follow us on Spotify and Apple Music, wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you haven't already, download the Rugby app to stay up to date with everything that is happening in the rugby world. And jump over to allthingsrugby.com to read the latest from all of our journalists globally covering the game. Ain't no way